Hello and a really warm welcome to our February Connect service online at Warrington. It's great for you to join us, whether you're joining us on Loom, on Loom, oh, there you go, better get my teeth in, joining us on Zoom, or whether actually you're catching up later on YouTube. And it's great to see you, particularly if this is your first time with us. If you're on Zoom live, then there's a chat function just at the bottom of your screen, and during the service there might be some opportunity to join in with chat or to ask answer some questions. I'm Kevin. I'm part of the Connect team, and it's my pleasure to lead you this evening. If you are joining us on YouTube, then particularly if you've enjoyed the service, please add some comments in the comment box. If you haven't enjoyed the service, then of course let's keep that to ourselves. No, seriously, we do actually want you to put your comments in, because that's the only way that we can make this service as meaningful for you as possible. Now, at this time of year, it's always been noticeable that there is often a dip in people's moods. Christmas is over, the bills might be coming in. We're still probably facing the worst of the weather. You only have to go out today to find that is a very lazy wind. It doesn't bother to go around you. That's in a normal year. And of course, in this year, we're adding to that furlough leave, redundancy, parents and guardians working from home while you're trying to do your school work. And this year's been a bit meh, really. It's not been really very good. So we're going to be talking about mental health as part of this service. But one of the things that we need to do is we need to look out for each other and make sure that we're all okay. And I'm going to give you a telephone number now, this is probably the most important thing you're going to see. And I think I was looking the wrong way around, actually, looking at my screen. This telephone number is 116 123. Some of you may be familiar with that number, 116 123. It's the number of the Samaritans. And if you feel at any point that you really do need to talk to somebody and you haven't got somebody close to you that you can do that, we want to make sure that during the service, after this service, that you are safe and that you are okay. So please remember the number 116 123. And we will be giving other numbers as well for the Pastoral Hub, which is something that we offer at Warrington Parish Church. There's been a number of things happening already at the beginning of 2021 to try and make us feel better about our mental health. So this week, for instance, there's been a children's mental health awareness week. And on the 4th of February this week, there was a Time to Talk Day, which was being promoted by the Time to Change campaign. The Samaritans, who are a really good organisation for looking out for people's mental health, they've been having a thank you day. I was honoured this week to be phoned up by the chief executive of the Samaritans. I've done a little bit of work with the Samaritans through my work, nothing spectacular, but they actually took the time to phone me up this week and say thank you for what you've done. And I must admit that did give me a real boost to my day. So we need to remember also to be saying thank you to each other. So this Connect team for this evening, we wanted to do something to actually help you feel better. Now, in December, you might remember we had a speaker that we had from the Himalayan region, and we wanted to search the world for an international expert on mental health and something that can bring you real joy and give you a lift. And we've actually found someone all the way over from a secret location in Northampton. And a little bit later, we'll be introducing you to Dr. David Smart, who will be joining us to lead through a talk about well-being and tips to help you feel better. Now, as a sort of icebreaker, and I'm not sure whether we've actually got these questions on screen or whether I'll just need to ask you. These are true or false questions, and the answers are either true or false. And if you can give your answers either in the chat, there's 3 questions here which will be answered as part of the talk. Oh, there we are. We've got them on screen. Thank you, David. The first true or false is depression is the #1 cause of disability worldwide and a main cause of sickness absence and reduced productivity. What do you think, whether that question's true or false? If you could click on screen and then submit your answer. I won't be able to give you the answer because I don't know the true answer to the question. David will reveal that as part of his talk. So if you could answer that question. And the second question is 50%. Wow, we've got the answers. Every single one of you thought that was that answer was true. So we'll see whether or not you're right during David's talk. The next question is 50% of adult mental health disorders, excluding dementia, can be diagnosed by the age of 15. 50% of adult mental health disorder, excluding dementia, can be diagnosed by the age of 15. Do you think that is true or false? We ought to have a countdown on here. I haven't got. Bing. Not sure how much time we've got for this. I'm going to get the answer there. That split the audience a bit more. So for 59% think that is true, and 41% think that is false. That is really interesting. As I said, I have no idea what the answers are, and David will reveal that later. The next question is, around 25% of people get evidence-based treatment. Is that true or false? And I'm hoping David will explain what evidence-based treatment actually is. But so 25% get evidence-based treatment. And we'll see in a moment, once you've answered those questions, how many people, how that splits you in terms of your responses. Bing. Again, wow, that's now 56%. That's much more of an even split. 56% think that is true, and 44% think that is false. That's really fascinating. We're going to go and have our first opening song, then it's going to come back to me. I'll have a Bible reading, and then we'll hand over to David for the talk. So the first song is The Lion and the Lamb. Sit back and enjoy. Thank you for that, Lion and the Lamb. When we were praying before this service, someone had a picture of someone who really needed to know that they are loved. Love for just who they are, not what you can do or what you can do for other people, how you can change, but loved for just who you are. And you just need to accept that as a gracious gift to you. So if there's somebody out there who really needs to know that they are loved, please accept Jesus's love through that message and through that picture. And thinking about safety, maybe during this period, this service, we might ask you occasionally to put your thumbs up. I know that may sound a bit cheesy, but if you're feeling okay and you want to tell people that you're okay, just put your thumbs up and let us all know that actually you are safe and you are well. So the reading for this evening is short verses from Romans. So we're looking at Romans chapter 5, verses 1 to 5. And this is from the NIV UK version. Therefore, since we have been justified through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand. And we boast in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Amen. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Dr. David Smart. He is Clinical Director for Prevention and Mental Health. He's also a licensed preacher at St Giles, Northampton. And just pray for David before I hand over to you. Lord, thank you for David. Thank you for his love for you and for his love for his neighbour. Speak through him this evening to bring your healing and your hope to all who hear his words. Amen. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Kevin, and thanks for that. And I can see myself, but if you want to put on my first slide, that would be great, just so that you can see that. And Kevin, you may have just given a word of prophecy there that I'm not actually yet a licensed reader at the church. So, but you never know what God's going to do. So there you go. I've thought about it, so never know. Anyway. So this is me, my talk. I'm going to be talking, I think, these three words, churches, community, and resilience. And I was thinking of which order to put them in. And I think it's interesting, you could put them in different orders. But I think this is what I want to think about, how the church may be able to lead a bit on where we are in our society at the moment, because we're leading a bit of hope. And I am going to be talking a lot about hope. So this is who I am. The son of a vicar, so I've been the other side of being inside a clerical house, being brought up in that way, a committed man of faith, and this is our practice at Leicester Terrace, so that's us, where I've been for 30 years. In fact, I've literally just left the practice and retired, more to move into more community mental health, work into public health, and I sit on the Prevention Concordat nationally, looking at how we can look at preventing mental health. And I'll be talking a bit about that. So in true Chris Whitty style, next slide, please. So here are the answers to those questions. I don't know if you can see them all, but they are in fact all true. It's the answer to those three questions I posed at the beginning. Depression is the #1 cause. In fact, it's rapidly gone up since about the last 10 to 15 years. It's gone up from second, third, second, and now first in 15 years. And we know that in the next, after COVID, we're expecting another 500,000 people with common mood disorder, that's anxiety and depression, to be in the population. About 1 in 4 adults, and that's increasing. And unfortunately, it's also increasing in certain communities. I don't particularly like the term, but the BAME community, that they are particularly affected, and so too are people over 60 and children. So it isn't always affecting people equally, is COVID, and that's interesting. also affecting people with inequalities. And we know that COVID, if you like, is a syndemic. That's not SI, that's SYN-demic. And that means it interacting with other things like mental health and long-term conditions like diabetes. Depression is the commonest cause of death, sadly, from completed suicide under 35. And 50%, this is a true figure, by 15, 75% by about 23, 24. That's because the emerging brain matters. The first 1,000 days of your life matter hugely to the rest of your mental health. So our ability to care for our children effectively and look at children's mental health, looking at adverse childhood events is really, really important. And so, and mental health, as I said, around 25% of people, evidence-based treatment is treatment which is, I think somebody put in, it's based on research evidence, it's NICE guidelines or that type of thing, randomized controlled trials. It's what we're meant to do, but sadly only 25% of people with mental health disorder get evidence-based treatment, which I think is criminal in our country. When you think that we wouldn't allow that for cancer care, where 90% of people get evidence-based treatment, and also other long-term conditions, but there is stigma. And that is what we've already talked about, the Time to Change campaign, really wanting to address stigma. Stigma kills and compassion saves. And I'll be talking a bit on that. And then what can the church do? Really, I think we're the only group, the club, that's there for the people who aren't in the club. So we're there for the community. And that's a real call for the commission we've been given. And spiritual health, very good evidence bases linked to mental health. People of church, I tried to apply for some public health grant for the congregation. I didn't get it because actually the evidence is that the congregation of a church has better mental health than the rest of the community. So if you have a faith, you have more like to have better health, mental health, and you have belonging really matters. And befriending, how we can befriend others also really matters. So connections, I'll keep saying connections matter. I've said about stigma, but we can advocate services, and I'll talk a bit about that, linking people to resources. And the Church of England is, has a major role in education. Next slide, please, where we're thinking of this. So really, this is just a very brief synopsis. I'm really thinking not of the church. It could get involved, and I think we all need help in the front line at the moment. The NHS, is struggling, but we're coming through now. And I think now with the immunizations, I think we're moving into thoughts now of recovery, which is good. And so I'm much more confident of where we are heading. But churches can have a major role in linking people to different resources that are out there. We're doing a lot of work locally, and you will in Peterborough area around social prescribing. And that's basically having people who can link people to community assets. And a church is a community asset. And you've got a lot of groups and resources and how we can link the right people. Next slide, please. This is an important slide, and you won't be able to read these numbers, but I'm going to give these to Kevin so they can be shared with you all. But this is a triangle of care, which means I, as a GP, may not be able to give you information about many of my patients. I'm not going to, that's confidential. But I can hear what you've got to say if you're worried about a loved one. And so if you do have concern over a loved one, then you can make contact. And there are some really good numbers. So just for all of you, the crisis number in Cambridge is 111, and then press 2. And if you press 111, press 2, that gets you through to the crisis line in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Or if you want, there are other numbers. And you've got a talking therapies number. So everybody can have talking therapies. That's accessible, self-referral, and that's 0300 300 0055. But those numbers I will share on this slide. So what I'm going to really talk about is on the next slide. What can we do about this? I'm giving a little bit of a synopsis of how you can maybe make link and advocacy. There are good mental health services out there. There are telephone numbers there. But what I want to really talk about is, next slide, please. This one is the great dream. This is something that I've been a GP 30 years with a major interest in depression. And I really looked at the deficit model the first 20 years around antidepressants and the benefits they can give. But actually the last 10 years, I've looked at what I'd call a asset-based model, which is really what can we got that can help. And that came out of a report in 2008 called the Foresight Report. And you may be aware of what are called the 5 ways to well-being, and that is the same as the GREAT. The next 5 are DREAM, and those are something I'm going to particularly talk about a bit more today. So the 10 keys to happier living, promoted by, in the bottom it'll say Action for Happiness. So if you just remember Action for Happiness, that website, lots of resources on that website. They have an app for those that like apps, gives you a little nudge, 2 little thoughts for the day, just to help you remember or think of what you can be doing. Something like ring a friend, may just be one, make contact with somebody, sit in a different chair is another, just doing something different, because that helps you. Doing things differently helps. Anyway, that's the app. There's a YouTube where you can look on different conversations with international experts, and you really do have people from the Himalayas and international experts on there, and they are excellent. And there's courses and resources, and we've set up a which I chair, is a Action for Happiness hub in Northampton or Northamptonshire. It'd be lovely to have that in Peterborough, and lovely to really think of how we could link up around setting something up elsewhere. That would be good. But lots of resources, they're freely available, so you can fill your boots. You can just go onto the courses and utilize them. Next slide, please. So what is the great dream? So happiness, and I'm not expecting everybody to be happy. That's really key to say. What I'm saying is these 10 things can help you be a little bit happier than you were maybe yesterday. So they're personal, what you can do to help you just be a little bit happier. And it's a framework. It's not a prescription of doing all 10 of these. It's just a bit of a menu. So you don't eat everything on the menu. When you go into a restaurant, you take a bite-sized of what you feel you need that day. Same as this. And it's supported by a lot of research and neuroscience, and more of the great are actions, and the last 5 attitudes. And I think it's, this is verse 8 from that chapter in Romans, that while we are yet sinners, Christ died for us. The opportunity, having a Jesus-focused life, to my mind, and that's my testimony, has been a great dream, and continues to be an improving dream as I can depend more on him. Next slide, please. And so that what I thought I'd do is, rather than starting with a G, which I normally do, I'd actually start with the R, because I think that's where we need at the moment, resilience. How do we bounce back from where we are? Because it is pretty dire at the moment. I don't know what you're feeling, but it's tough. And even getting out for a walk today, it's tough out there. That wind did go straight through me. It was really bitter. So sometimes can be bitter, and being real, being honest before God is really important. It isn't about being false and starting from somewhere else. Start from where you are. But how do we bounce back? And then knowing our strengths, how can we actually just move into being a bit more resilient? And these 10 keys I've found, as I reflect on them, help me just to think, what can I do? And also, importantly, at the bottom, how can I have Jesus as my role model? How can I keep focus on what is good, what is right, honest, and true, rather than maybe some of those false thoughts which bug me in my head? Next slide, please. And this is a bit I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to focus on in depth on all of them. Just this one I did want to, because emotions matter to us, but we tend to have a wiring to look at what's negative, what could be out there. The saber-toothed tiger in our past, we wanted to get out of the way. We didn't want to think, what does it look like? Isn't it beautiful? We just want the amygdala to hit in, take on our brain, give us that immediate rush of getting out of the place. And that's what we need. But actually, to survive in the savannah, but we don't need that now. And unfortunately, a lot of negative thoughts can be there, and they can be triggered, and they can remain with us, and they're not helpful. So what we need to do is how do we overcome that? And it's more an attitude of gratitude, or as we heard in the reading, how we can actually have glory in our suffering, give thanks. Look for what we can give thanks for. I have a gratitude diary, which I read 2 or 3 things in the morning, 2 or 3 things in the evening. Just have an attitude of gratitude. But it is being real. There are times to weep, and there are times to rejoice. I do want to emphasize that. But next slide, please. But how can we just keep this attitude of gratitude. And if we really look for these things, these different emotions come up. I'll touch that slide slightly, kind of you managed to join up the dots there, that joy and other things that that's not quite reading, but hope. This in verse 4. If we can give thanks, it can lead us to that character and that aspect of then having hope. And certainly as a GP, my aim of the time, all consultations, was try and give people a little bit of hope as they left the consultation. And next slide, please. So gratitude means, not being glass half full person, but my cup runneth over. That's that type of, if we can be thinking ourselves, if we're getting ourselves a bit more sorted, we can run over to others. And that's a vision or a view I'd like to think of. Next slide, please. And this is a lovely one that actually comes from work from Fredrickson, that actually, if we can actually have these pleasant emotions, that's like a seesaw, it can almost help us to spiral up rather than spiraling down. And we can move into broadening, building and undoing. And that can even help us to manage some of the more stressful emotions and manage stress. So the next slide, please. This is something that I just mentioned there, that is what I've found, but this is actually research that you can actually, just at the end of your day, and I'd encourage you today to try this for next week, just think of 3 good things, just dwell on them a bit. Each one, just dwell on it for a couple of minutes and just think, you give thanks for. Yeah, I could give thanks. It was cold, but I got out for that walk. And it was really nice just to have a bit of a walk with my wife outside and just enjoy that. It was a bit of a struggle, but it was good. It was a good struggle. It was so I enjoyed the time and just noticing nature and how things have been different. Because last time I went on the same walk, it was snowy. Nice to remember that snow. So again, that's a type of thing you can do. But look at what happens to your well-being over the next 6 months. It continues to rise because you're beginning to focus. You're changing your focus, almost putting a pair of glasses on for your dreams, and certainly just an attitude of gratitude. And that's what this verse in Romans is about, is just noticing what can be good, and it can give you that sense of character, and that can give you some resilience. Next slide, please. Now this, I think, is, I think Kevin was saying, this attitude of acceptance. So we're moving into the dream, we're kind of into the REA as acceptance, being comfortable with who you are, being comfortable in your own skin. And I remember when I had a time to go to a church conference, and I actually really felt that all I needed was to be accepted by God. And I'm not a great guy for running up to the front, but on that occasion, I was the first one there, because I thought that was a real word for me of just wanting to be accepted by Christ as I am, warts and all. And I just needed to realize that, rather than, but many of us can be hung up on bits of us, but Christ accepts us as we are. That is just such an amazing ability, that we can be welcomed into those open arms. But we need to learn how to do this ourselves. And the next slide, please. M is for meaning, and this is the last bit of the dream. And it's important, this is a biopsychosocial spiritual model. And it's the only model I know that has all of those 4 components. But this really does mean that, as I've said earlier, people have a reason for why can survive almost any how. And that's a great truth. So actually having meaning matters. So next slide, please. So back to the great dream. So we've covered the last 4 of these. We're now going to just look at the next 5. And again, this is kind of done in more detail when you go into the different courses. And we are going to run a champions training course. And again, if people wanted to contact Kevin, then that's something we can think about running in future. I'll just mention that now. So next slide, please. The G. This is, giving. This is great, as we do as Christians, of giving, of volunteering, supporting. Kevin was talking about how the work you've done with Samaritans, but actually you get a lot back. You actually, we connect with people. There's actually prolactin, and one of the hormones which actually women release in breastfeeding. That's a connector of them to the babe. We release that, as it actually helps us connect with each other when we give. And giving really enables us as a community to connect and ripple out. And I think the church to be able to ripple out, that's a great opportunity for the church to witness. And the next slide, please. The relating, this is something which, again, difficult at the moment. We need to relate one to another. We need to hug each other, hold each other, touch each other. That's, you see children or young children who have been held in places where they haven't had that connection, it matters. It matters to their neuronal networks. And I have concern for children who have had isolation. We know in elderly people, isolation is equivalent to smoking 20 cigarettes a day. So relating and connecting matters to us. So how can we do that and to love one another and really, to be together? This is really a key thing. And just to, obviously you can do it on Zoom and in other ways, but how we can learn and how to get making contact with each other, ringing people up, friends up we haven't spoken to for some time. Next slide. This is really one of the key things, is that the great commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. And I think one thing I had to think about myself was that how I needed care for myself as a doctor. I was caring for a lot of other people, but how do I care for myself? And I think, and being, loving myself. And so I think this is okay, to do that. So self-compassion, and there's great work. This is a slide by Kristen Neff, Kristen Neff, and she's got a fantastic website on self-compassion, which I would recommend for those people things may be needed for them. Just loving yourself, being kind, and just being aware of these aspects of just how you speak to yourself. Mirror neurons matter. That's that person looking in the mirror there. And if those mirror neurons, if we're caring to ourselves as we are to others, and if you say negative things to yourself, then that can be how you can reflect into being with others. And then this aspect of our common humanity, recognizing we're in this together. No one is an island. We're in this common connection together. And then the last bit is mindfulness, just being open to the reality of the present moment. And mindfulness isn't the same as transcendental meditation. It's mindfulness, which is just being in the moment, and we'll think about that as a breathing exercise later. But that's certainly something that's really helped me in my mental health. So those are three components of being kind to yourself and self-compassion. Next slide, please. And E this is a great one. The body is a temple of the spirit, and E, so we're moving to the great GRE exercise, taking care of the whole body. Eating matters. We know that inflammation and your gut biome matters. So probiotics and prebiotics, really good. And there's some evidence base around that for mental health. Alcohol is not so good. So actually, we have seen people who've increased the alcohol during lockdown. But just trying to healthy eating, exercising, sleeping, and care with the alcohol. That probably has been my main job for the last 30 years in trying to actually help people. And actually, the evidence is that's probably done more than most of the tablets. Behavior change makes 40% difference to health outcomes. The NHS makes 20%. So actually, these behaviors that I'm talking about matter. And to care of our body and our own care for that is really important. And next slide, please. And awareness is, again, this bit about mindfulness. And it's just being in the present moment. This is good mental health. It's not worrying about what the past has happened. It's not thinking about the future. There's so many futures. We're not in the future. Being in the present is where good mental health exists. And just stopping to take notice. Going out for walks, but having all walks, just allowing all in. I'm coming into land. Next slide, please. Keeping on going and learning. This is great. We all just need to schools. There's a good schools toolkit from Action for Happiness. We're doing a lot of work as well with families with Action for Happiness in Northants, but there's a great schools toolkit. But keep learning as adults. And then next slide, coming into land now, back to the great dream. And the one I've missed is the D, really. So next slide is direction and having goals. And so really, I'm not going to go through all of the remaining slides. What remains in this presentation is a whole load of resources and different ways you can connect this in. But I'm just going to say, think about your own goals of what it is that you could do, but also what you could do as a person, within your family, and then ripple out. What maybe the church could be thinking about, how this could be landing with you. And just one slide, I'll share this next slide. And this is just, there's lots of other slides. I'm just going to want to show this one. This is Mind and Soul. And they have been working in this field for years, over probably about 15 years. So it's a vicar and a psychiatrist together. So, you know, that's great. So I think that, but there's lots of other organisations, Go Health and other things. So I'll keep in touch with Kevin, and very happy to keep in touch with you guys about this. So I'm very happy, you know, to support you in your journey forward as Kevin sees fit. So I'm going to stop there because I think I've come up to my time, and I could go on. I could go on for a long time on this subject and have before. So, but I recognise the time for today. Hope that's been useful. Action for happiness, 10 keys to happier living, self-compassion, taking care, and then rippling out to your family, taking care of your family, rippling out to people around you, rippling out to the church, rippling out to our communities. And I hope that, you know, the church can be salt and light to the communities around us. And those numbers, you know, for the mental health services are available. Thank you very much. So thanks, back to you, Kevin.
Yeah, how's that? Thank you, David. Thank you so much. We're now going to have a response song. We're then going to come back to David for a simple exercise that perhaps we can practice tonight, and then we'll round up. Okay, thank you.
strength within the sorrow. There is beauty in our tears, and you meet us in our mourning with a love that casts out fear. You are working in our waiting, sanctifying us when beyond our understanding. You're teaching us to trust. Your plans are still to prosper. You've not forgotten us. You're with us in the fire and in the flood. Faithful forever, perfect in love. You are sovereign over us. You are wisdom unimagined. Who could understand your ways? Leaning high above the heavens, reaching down in endless grace. You're the lifter of the lowly, compassionate and kind. You surround me, you uphold me. Promises are my delight. Your plans are still to prosper. You've not forgotten us. You're with us in the fire and in the flood. Faithful forever, perfect in love. You are sovereign over us. Yes, faithful forever, perfect in love. You are sovereign over us. Even when the enemy means for evil, you turn it for our good. You turn it for our good, for your glory. Even in the valley, you are faithful. You're working for our good. You're working for our good, for your glory. Even when the enemy means for evil, you turn it for our good. You turn it for our good, for your glory. Even in the valley, you are faithful. You're working for our good. You're working for our good, for your glory. Your plans are still to prosper. You've not forgotten us. You're with us in the fire and in the flood. Faithful forever, perfect in love. You are sovereign over us. Yes, faithful forever, perfect in love. You are sovereign over us. Faithful forever, perfect in love. You are sovereign over us.
Thank you ever so much for that, and that's great to have those words. It's just a little bit of Alice may just cover a couple of points people put in chat. Thank you for comments of Living Life to the Full is LLTF. Living Life to the Full is a good resource, and I've put in the link to your local, Mind Keep Your Head website, and that's got a lot of resources on. I just wanted to, what helps when we get really wound up and anxious, what can happen is we alter our breathing. And that's something I've had a bit of anxiety myself, and that's what I found. And so one of the key things that helped me is exercise. I do a lot of exercise, and also mindfulness helps me come back to the moment and prayer. But breathing matters. And so actually, how do we do this? So I'm just going to this is something I did for somebody who had agoraphobia, and they had difficulty getting out of the house. And so they used this technique to get across the road. They then booked themselves a holiday. They then actually managed to get up on the stage on holiday and sing. And I was quite amazed by all of that. So this is, I'm not saying this is going to do all of that for you, but this technique, so, and it calms our amygdala down, which is a brainstem, which is, I said, it takes over our thinking. So if we can calm that down, it can help us to then return to clear thought. And if you focus on something other than your thinking, it can help you to come into the moment. And various techniques, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, using our senses is another way. But this is called 7-11 breathing. And it is as simple as when we get tense, we breathe in and we expand our chest and it pushes on the heart. When we breathe out, we relax. And so actually if we breathe out longer than we breathe in for, that's how you're wired, that will help. So 7-11, and so you breathe in on 7. So we're going to do it together. So, and I'm just going to count, so it's breathing in, 3. I can't count and speak at the same time now. Out on 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So again, breathing in on 7. And out on 11. 8, 9, 10, 11. And the aim is, if you do count as you're doing it, if you can use your hands, it's taking it out of your head. So it's just taking it out. So we're going to try it a couple more to breathing on 7. Out on 11. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. In on 7. And out on 11. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I'm glad somebody's put in that the SAS use that as well. So if it's good enough for the SAS, then guys, it's good enough for you. But very helpful in just bringing your level down into the moment. If you can sit up with a straight back and alter your posture as well, that helps. Abdominal breathing also helps that. And obviously when I'm doing it, I try and think of the Holy Spirit coming in and all some of my more difficult thoughts going out. So I'm being refreshed as I do that. And you can develop that. But 7-11 breathing, it rhymes with heaven. So have a go and just see how you get on. And 3 things to give thanks for. Try it in the morning, in the evening, and the Action for Happiness stuff. But happy to keep in touch. And yeah, getting some great stuff in the chat about living life to the full. Those links on CBT, they're really, really good. And actually, I don't know if people know Living Life to the Full, great CBT website, but the person who runs it is also a Christian. So that's good to know. Back to you, Kevin.
David, thank you so much. Thank you for your huge wisdom. Thank you for sharing the wisdom that is in Great Dream and in the 7-11 and in the more than 2 or 3 things that we'll be able to take away to actually put into place now to help change our behavior, to start to think more positively so that we can enter more fully into Jesus's great joy. I just thank you so much. It's been a really, really great evening, and I hope others have got as much out of it as I have. If nothing else, you calmed me down for doing this end section of this for this service. Just remember those numbers, particularly if anything has been raised within you and you're feeling in a particular place where you need to talk to someone. Just remember the Samaritan's number, 116 123. So please, if you are feeling, if anything has been raised for you this evening, please don't just leave it there. Do something with it. Talk to someone. We really want to be able to help. I want to close up now. This evening would not be possible without our tech team. We particularly give thanks to David Smart. We also give thanks to David Jones for helping behind the scenes, for Al and Dan, and for Stuart and for others who have been sharing their musical talents. This is not just one person leading, this is a whole team. This would not be possible without everybody contributing their bit. And it is such a joy to be part of such a fantastic team. So please join us next time. The next Connect service is on Sunday, the 7th of March, where we hope to be joined by speakers from Hope into Action. So please look after yourself, look after those who are around you. Take advantage of the numbers and the things that we've told you, and may you have a blessed evening. May you have deep and peaceful sleep and awake really refreshed in the morning. Have a great week, and hope to see you again really soon. Thank you, and God bless.